dónde llegarán tus pasos al dejar tu patria por detrás. Con profundo amor y un niño en brazos al azul, tus pies quieren llegar. Sigues el susurro de una ola, el viento del desierto ya ha quedado atrás. Con un paso lento y otro largo, con un poco de paciencia llegarás. Mira dónde llegaron tus pasos, al azul tus pies te llevarán y el mar te espera y el su abrazo tibio te quiere arrullar y el mar te arrullará. Mira dónde llegarán tus pasos, al azul Pacífico y el blanco porvenir te recibe con flores de mi jardín. El blanco porvenir te recibe con flores de mi jardín. El blanco porvenir te recibe con flores de mi jardín. Deja que tus pies cansados duerman con el arrullo del mar. Con mi canto bailan las estrellas, celebrándote al llegar. Que el jardín más bello hoy florezca. Mil flores te voy a cortar, que tu corazón valiente sepa que mereces mil flores más. ¿A dónde llegaron tus pasos? Al azul tus pies llegaron ya. Muchas gracias. Patrick Wolf and sax and clarinet. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, thank you all for watching this film. I don't know how the rest of you felt. I, was so moved. I cried a lot. And so we just want to talk a little bit about this film, how it came to be. And so let's just start out with the origin. So Diana and Claudia have known each other for some time. And you were talking, and Diana says, whenever I get my green card, I want to drive to the border and cross on foot. And Claudia, you immediately thought, this is a film. Can you talk about how did you know that, and how did that process start?
Well, I think road trips are always a good film. Or there's so much that happens when you go on a road trip. And being in a road trip, going back home after not being there for such a long time, it was such a beautiful concept in my head. Also, when we were talking about it, and she said that she's finally getting there, that she probably will finally get there because there was no green card there. Yet, just having and processing those feelings on the road to go back and being in touch with the land again, feel the breeze and feel the terrain and everything was something that also captured my attention so much because I was undocumented as well. And I didn't have the opportunity to go back home when I got my green card on the road because I'm from Colombia. And flying is another complete different story than when you get home on Earth, like with all the elements joining you in that journey. So yeah, so that's how it happened, and she was down to do it.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like I kind of always knew that I would want to walk on that bridge as I go back. And then my idea was confirmed with another family member, an aunt that I had who hadn't been to Mexico, who was also kind of in the same process as I was. It took her 20 years before she was able to go back to Mexico. She also didn't have her documents in place. And so my idea of gradually getting closer to the homeland and driving and gradually, entering, going back, was confirmed when she said that she flew from Michigan into Mexico. So 6 hours later, she was already in Mexico. And for her, it was kind of a shock and sort of not in a good way, like it was too abrupt of a transition, right? Having spent 20 years in the States without being able to go back. And so I remember when I told her, I said, yes, do that. Like it's gonna be more special. Like I didn't like the way I did it going back. And so, and I remember, when I told Claudia my idea, she's like, I want to film that. And I'm like, okay, we've got a deal. This was over coffee in a Mission Cafe or something. So that was really, really special because I think, you never think that your story, or I never thought that my story would be, worth sharing it. And I would always have these questions of like, who am I, to share the story? And then there was another voice that said, who are you not to? And so I was really grateful that it happened and that it might not inspire other people to at least get to know, the many faces of immigration and the other story, the people that are, like me really wanting to go back and to see the homeland again. Much is said about the people that come here, but not what it is like to go back.
Which I also think is something that it normally is not portrayed with immigration. Is like sometimes when there's the opportunity to go back, that is bizarre. Well, for some people, I was actually talking with a friend the other day. He's like, "Oh no, it wasn't like it was like normal for me." I'm like, "What?" Because for me, it was like the most bizarre thing. And I think it is very emotional. It's like it's the people, the family, your friends, but it's also the land. It's like when you are part of a land, it's everything. It's the soil, it's the smells, it's where you grew up, and that is like being in touch with that is like the soil where you were born again. Is it's such a profound and deep experience.
And so, Diana, what was it like for you opening yourself up in this way and showing your life to a camera? And was that easy at first? What was that like?
It was horrible. It was hard. It was hard. It wasn't horrible, I guess, because, I mean, luckily it was my friend who was filming it. But actually, I think, having such a close connection to Claudia too made it a little bit hard because I'm a joker and there were so many things that I would say that I would think in my head, like, oh, I hope that gets edited out because, I'm just like making jokes or whatever. And sometimes it was hard for me to sort of be serious, right? It's hard to have something, like the camera, right, all the time. But
you opened up over time. It got easier?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and also, I think, Claudia, you followed me for what, 3 years? Was it 3 years? About 3 years. So yeah, at the end of, I was like, whatever, lo que sea va a ser. Like, I wasn't sure. I had no clue what, hour was going to make it into the thousands of hours of footage. So there was a point where I'm like, that's probably not going to make it. If I was like not happy about like something that was filmed, I'm like, is she really filming that? And I thought, well, she'll edit it out. You know what I mean? So.
And I'm like, not.
Well, I was curious watching the film, like, Claudia, how did you know this is the story I'm trying to tell? Especially, like you were saying about your aunt, it can take decades to get your green card. And so I was watching this film and just feeling like I know that this process is so long, and for you to embark on this documentary project, like how did you approach that knowing there was a lot of uncertainty with the story?
Well, you approach it with a lot of uncertainty. But isn't that what life is, people? So art is life. Yeah, you approach it with a lot of uncertainty, but I also think that is a good thing. Being in the hands of the government to determine what is going to happen with you, it's such a bizarre experience. It's such this waiting time. It's something really crazy. But at the same time, your life goes on, and you keep doing things. So yeah, a lot of things get determined by this paper, but that doesn't mean that your life stops there. And Diana's life did not stop because she was waiting the paper. Some things are not possible, some others are possible, but it doesn't mean that you're waiting on a chair, waiting for the paper to come. Like if you are a creative person as Diana is, like you keep creating, and even like with more strength and deepness, because there's a lot of things that are emotionally complex inside of you when you're waiting for this thing and wondering what is going to happen. Also living this present moment of like not being allowed to do certain things because you don't have a piece of paper or not. That also for a creative person is also food for for creation. And so your life doesn't stop there, but, and for me as the viewer of all these, but from someone that had gone through the same process, is part of filming too. And I think the beauty of making and following the lives of people is just go with what life is presenting to you there, and then the story develops as life develops as well. So.
And Diana, one of the more heartbreaking moments for me as a viewer was the scenes where you go to El Paso and you can see Juarez. And I personally have crossed the border back and forth many times to visit my parents' homeland in Jalisco, and it's more central, but Juarez is like, it's right there, like it's touching the US. And when I saw you and you could see it, but you couldn't touch it, that was just so intense for me. Tell us about that and being willing to put that, on camera.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most bizarre moments of, one of the bizarre moments of my experience as, an immigrant who couldn't go back to the homeland, because like I could see it. So it was bizarre, and it also made me question like how humans, it just seemed like so. How is it possible that I can't? It's right there. And I remember looking at it through the binoculars and thinking like, yeah, it's right there. And yet I can't be there. I can't smell it, because there is a difference. I don't know if if you have the opportunity to make that journey, to experience physically what it feels like to walk. You're in El Paso, you're in the United States, and you walk into Mexico gradually, not like get off a plane and then you're in Mexico. It's a trip. But for me, being in El Paso, seeing Mexico right there, it was bizarre, and it made me question the way we do things, as humanity, like the question of, or the idea of borders, of, the things that determine whether we can go to this place, whether we belong, whether, quote unquote belong, but.
And you grew up crossing back and forth.
Yeah.
Right, and that was perfectly normal to you. And it's perfectly normal for people that live on the border, right, to go to El Paso for the day or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and so another thing too is that, when I moved to the United States, I moved to Michigan, right? And so I was far from the border. So I think that also it's important because, or in the film, how it became really bizarre for me because I had not experienced that, being in El Paso, being so close yet so far. And then when I lived in California, same thing. It's like you don't really think about Mexico because, it's a coping mechanism. You develop these ways to survive and, mentally, emotionally. And so you're not thinking as much about it. And so being in El Paso, it's like, I guess that's what it is. Being in El Paso, it's like, oh no, this is what it is like. Like I cannot go to that place and it's right there. And it calls me, it really calls me. And it was calling me then when you filmed that. It was a very emotional moment for me. And I think my dad, there was a person who couldn't cross at that time that I really wanted to see. So all that too added to the emotionality of that moment.
And we'd actually like to invite the audience to ask questions. There's a staff member with a microphone roving around, so if you have a question, maybe raise your hand or so we can see you. And another question I had was, you specifically told this story a certain way, and there is kind of a thought of like stories about undocumented people need to create a lot of sympathy, or when you hear the story, it's like you want to call your senator or something right after you hear it. But the politics was there, but you were trying to tell the story in a different way. Can you talk about just what was your intention around that part?
Yeah, I think something that I find a lot with films about immigrants in the United States are sometimes maybe the politics take over so much that you start seeing the immigrant as the other person that is going through things, but they're kind of like far away from you, and they're like, oh, the pobrecito thing that, oh, he's going through so much, or like, yeah, but it's kind of like this other person that I think it's important to do this type of stories. I think they're very, very important to be told as well. But I also think it's very important to tell the story of the human being that is going through these things. And what I mean with the human being is kind of like, for me, in my own storytelling style that I'm kind of like developing throughout my life, is with poetry in a way, with lyricism, and with a way of like telling the life or the experiences in a way that is that goes a little bit beyond the facts. And for me personally, I think is poetry. I think poetry is something that touches all, that is there underneath us all, whatever we're going through and wherever we come from. So what I tried with this, I don't know if I did it or not, but what I tried and what I normally try to do with this craft that I'm developing in my life is to insert a little bit more of that. And then, of course, that is like, you put the spices or whatever you want to call it for, with politics and the context of what is going on there, because it's very important too. And like in Diana's case, it was filmed during the Trump era. It was really harsh and really like, it was on the news constantly, and you heard these like terrible things from the president here talking about very badly about the immigrants that came to this country, and specifically about Mexican immigrants coming to this country illegally. And so I think it's important to have both sides, but in my own way of telling stories, I'm very interested in the lyricism of life, and in the things that you normally don't see but you feel. And the question is how you translate those emotions or those feelings or those things that are alive with us constantly into images and sounds and the experience of watching a film.
Thank you for that. And we have a few more minutes, so if you'd like to. Oh, we have some questions.
I want to say thank you. I'm really touched. My name is Claudia.
Tocaya.
And Tocaya. And I'm really grateful that through art, I see Diana's life as a window of many, many stories of immigrants. And this is not a question, it's an invitation to everyone that is here. How can we dare, the same way that you, Claudia, you invite Diana, and both of you are really brave through a camera and through your life, speak out and say, this is my story. And we always say, we work in an organization, it's called Prospera, where we partner with Latina women with a lot of dreams. And we see that a tool to change reality is to embrace your story. And I want to invite, and I'm asking the people here, how can we, through this film, how can we speak out together? Because I love your story, and your story is an invitation to really see and hear those people, like when you were in Michigan, that you couldn't or you weren't able to embrace and say, yes, this is who I am. But that's the story of many people. And I want to invite everyone here, all of us, to really see and hear every person around us, because there's a lot of Dianas in the world, not only in the United States. And that's something that has to change. The world that we live is not the world that we need. And climate change is happening, but also part of this descomposition, like part of this decrease of life, or is also how we perceive ourselves as human beings. So I want to say thank you, because I cry a lot, and that's really healthy. So let's keep crying and also organizing. So there's more stories that we can bring light and we can change, because we need to break the rules. They are not working for us. Thank you.
And thank you for being in the audience, because stories need an audience. Otherwise, you know, we can tell them to a black hole. But
True.
Hi, I'm Lauren. Thank you so much. That was really, really beautiful and moving. My question is, I'm wondering, like, what has changed or not changed about your relationship with yourself, with the United States, with Mexico, with your family, now that you have the opportunity to be able to go back home?
That's a good question. I mean, a lot has changed. For one, I lost my father, who you saw in the film. And that, I think I'm a different person after that loss. I think for the better. I'm more aware of how finite life is, and so I'm traveling to Mexico as much as I can. I'm spending more time with friends, with family. I'm focusing on you know, more on love and on just, you know, what makes me feel alive, and really embracing the moment more and more. So that's for me, and I mean, I've gotten closer to my sister, which for me, it has meant the world. I do feel like I abandoned her. You know, I'm 7 years older than her, and one of the letters that I found when I was away, she was telling me, I really need you, hermana. I really wish you were here, you know, when she was a teenager. And I actually remember, I don't remember feeling as emotional when I read it, but now I found it recently, and I realized that I am closer to her, and I think that's one of the best gifts that I've had. And also, I've also, I'm not necessarily thinking that it changed, but I think it amplified my need and my desire to keep helping, you know, or serve as a voice, or serve as a vessel, support any organizations or any movements that are also involved with policy changing or policy making, or contributing to help make changes in policy, so that others can experience what I experienced, so others can go back to the homeland, so others can embark on that path to citizenship. And that gets done ultimately, you know, through policy. So if anything, too, after I've experienced, you know, after now that I'm able to go, it just strengthens that desire to have more people embark on this freedom train, right? And so, yeah. Thanks for your question.
we'll take one last question. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Howard. Thank you. It was absolutely beautiful evening.
Thank you.
My question is about how your songwriting has changed now that you no longer have that barrier between yourself and your family, and that fear of potential deportation. Thematically, has your writing changed?
Yeah, I think so. I think a little bit. I think I'm an artist. I'm an idealist, and I'm nostalgic. I'm a 4 on the Enneagram, and so I'm still writing. There's still like a lot of I still write about identity and about opening our wings and wanting to fly freely. But I think it is from a more graceful place. I think my music tended to be more nostalgic and a little bit more maybe dramatic. I mean, I'm even seeing it musically. I'm less attached to making something very intricate, and I'm just letting go more musically. And I think also with my lyrics too. So yeah, it's interesting how I think it had changed.
Well, thank you all for being here and opening your hearts to this story and this film and taking part in this evening with us. This was a beautiful experience to meet you, to see your story, and talk about it. And so KQED has a lot more events, so please check out our website, kqed.org/live, to come back and support more events. Thank you, Claudia, for making this film a reality. It was so beautiful. Thank you, Diana, for opening up your story and your life and your music and your beautiful voice. Thank you, Patrick Wolf, for bringing this beautiful music tonight. So thank you all, and have a good night. Thank you. And so we'll end with another song from Diana.
Entre nosotros había un río y 900 días más de mi memoria de olvido. Quiso arrancarte, pero no podrá. Quiere arrancarte, pero no podrá. Traigo debajo del brazo un libro llenito de historias. Te las ofrezco toditas, todas, hoy que la vida nos sobra. Traigo debajo del brazo un libro llenito de historias buenas, malas, largas, cortas. Te las ofrezco toditas, gritan mi pena y mi gloria. Hoy te las canto toditas, todas, hoy que la vida nos sobra. Bajo el soy bajo el sol de tu verdad, bajo el sol de tu verdad. Quiero en mis ojos recuerdos que me hablen de tu querer, mares y valles de sombra que yo no podía ver. Llevo en mi oído un susurro, vientos que vienen de Uxmal, cantos de aves al aire libres que no podía escuchar. Bajo el sol de tu verdad, bajo el sol de tu verdad. La 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 la. Distinguen tu luz, tierna lucierna querida, quiero brillar donde brillas tú. Y aunque tu cuerpo sea gris, mis ojos distinguen la luz que te queda, tierna lucierna querida, juntas nos juraremos la vida. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Once again, give it up for Patrick Wolf, my musical partner for over 10 years. It's an honor to share the stage with him and to share the space with you. Truly, truly, this is our first in-person live concert doing together. So thank you so much. It means a lot. Muchas gracias. Please be safe, be healthy.
Have an amazing time. Bye-bye. Thank you.